Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie from StoryADay here, and the podcast is here. How about that? You may have noticed it's been absent for a few weeks. Part of that has been to do with me travelling around, gathering new knowledge, going to events like the Writer Unboxed conference and various other things. Part of it has been to do with me creating content, trying to create more content for the blog. I've put on a couple of workshops in the last month. The first one was about writing holiday stories, and that's actually available now as a complete training. So I'm going to put a link to that in the chat for you there. So you can use that workshop as something to keep you sane during the holidays if you want to sneak off and write a little story. Some of it is if we still have what have we got? 15 days, 15 days to the end of the year. So if you want to write a New Year story and pop it up on your blog or send it to friends or send it out to a call for submissions, you could use that workshop to work through how, the elements that go into a good holiday story, and how to put it all together. There's prompts for writing, there's prompts for planning. You could also use it to plan for holidays that happen later in the year that you might want to write about. So Arbor Day, Father's Day, all the things that nobody writes stories for, and the anthologies are always, especially online publications, are quite often keen to get stories to do with the minor holidays. So going through the holiday stories workshop might actually be something that could give you a little bit of structure in this very unstructured time that tends to kick in towards the end of the year. So there's a link in the show notes to the Holiday Stories workshop and a nice discount for listeners of the podcast. I've also put together a workshop just for the StoryADay Superstars last week, which was to do with using AI. I've spent most of the year not talking about AI because I've been watching and listening. And I am the kind of person who usually dives right in and has opinions on things very quickly. And I did have opinions, but I wanted to watch some of my friends who were diving more deeply into how to use it before I started pontificating about how writers could use it. Because obviously, for the creative parts of what we do, the thought of using AI is horrifying because that's the fun part. We want to do that ourselves. And also, AI is pretty bad at that so far. It might get decent someday, but it's pretty bad at it now. So I gave this workshop to the superstars in which I showed them how you could prompt things like ChatGPT to help you with bits of your writing process that are maybe hanging you up. If you're a really good plotter and you have a system for that, then cool. A lot of us struggle a little bit with story structure, and you can look at those story structure maps that are out there, the 3-act structure, the save the cat thing, romancing the beat, whatever that is out there for mystery writers. And you can look at those and still not really be able to map your story idea onto all of those points that are supposedly the building blocks of the story structure. So I showed the Superstars group how you could put those things into ChatGPT or get it to generate one for you and put in the structure of either the StoryADay short story framework or something like Save the Cat, and how ChatGPT could quickly come up with ideas for you for each point of the story structure. And then it becomes like a back and forth. You're not just talking to yourself in your head, you're actually bouncing ideas off this technology if you don't have a friend to bounce ideas off, or you don't have someone whose writing is at the same level as yours, or who you can go and have coffee with. Not all of us have that opportunity or the time to do it exactly when we want to. If you come up with an idea at 2 a.m. and you call your best writing buddy and say, let's brainstorm this idea together, you are not probably going to get a very good response. ChatGPT will not give you attitude about that, or whatever AI tool you want to use. So we talked about that. We talked about the creative part of it. But then I blew their minds a little bit in the group. And I think if there's interest in this, I will create this workshop in replay form that you can go through as well. So drop me a line. Let me know if you'd like to see this. But because what I did in the second half of the workshop is I showed them how they could use artificial intelligence, which I would argue is emphasis on the artificial. There's no intelligence involved. It's machine learning. Anyway, that's another rant. But you can use it to help you do the things in your writing life that you stall on because you don't really want to do them. So we went through everything from getting it to write a professional looking bio by pulling examples of bios from books like yours or from publications where your story might get published, pulling samples from those places, popping them into something like ChatGPT and asking it to recreate that style for you. So writing your bio can be such a stupid thing to stall us, but it really can stall us from getting our work out there. Because if a publication says include a 50-word bio and you've got a 100-word bio, you might get a little stalled because you are hoping to. Sorry, I'm pausing here because I think Santa is coming through my neighborhood. I'm not sure if you can hear the fire engines, but there's a fire engine outside, and I think this is Santa driving through the neighborhood on the top of a fire truck. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so what was I saying? Stalling, your bio can stall you because we hate talking about ourselves, and it's awkward and difficult, and it's something you don't want to do, and you can procrastinate on writing the bio so long that it stops you from submitting the piece. Taking all the emotion out of it and letting one of these artificial intelligence machines, engines, write it for you can be great. Same with the summary of your story or your novel. You can get it to create something like that for you. It has been fed with reader expectations around these things, and therefore it can generate a summary based on what readers are expecting. And it's so much easier to get somebody else to do your summary in the first place. And to allow a machine learning ChatGPT type thing to create a summary of your story helps you to bypass the problem we all have where we don't know which details to pick for a summary. Learning to write a good summary is an actual skill. And if you're not excited to do it, it will be something that you could put off. I also showed them how you could use it to create organizational structures for your work. I know I have stories in many different places. Some are in different word processors, some are in notebooks, but which notebooks? And some are on pieces of paper from years ago. I could spend all day creating an organizational structure, and that would use up tons of creative energy and feel quite fun. And would I ever stick to it? I don't know. So I'm shortcutting that by asking ChatGPT to create an organizational structure. And then I asked it for advice on how to actually implement that and what would be the best thing. And I got it to give me column headings for a spreadsheet. And there's all kinds of stuff that you can do in there. It's pulling from everything that's ever been written online. Although there is lots of dross online, there are lots of good articles by professional project managers and organizers and things like that. So it's pulling the best of that advice and putting it all on one page. So while you could Google or do any kind of search engine search for how can I organize my writing, you would then have to wade through hundreds of different articles, all giving slightly different advice. And somehow just asking something like ChatGPT to summarize all that and give you one answer that you can follow is liberating. So we did that. And we also looked at we asked ChatGPT how to write a query letter and then how to create a schedule for our writing customized to each of our requirements. So some of us have lots of free time to write. Some of us have almost no free time to write. Some of us have appointments on Wednesday mornings or Thursday evenings. And so we dove into how to prompt ChatGPT properly to help us create schedules and how to implement them and how to write a query letter if we're trying to get published, how to put together a schedule for that, like how long can I expect it to take me, what should I do on each day of the week that I have available. We asked it to create a marketing plan for a finished piece that's out there in the world and how to help us plan a book tour customized to our local area. So there's tons of ideas in this AI workshop. And so I'd be interested to hear if you are interested in that. The the technology is here. We also talked about the ethics of AI and what's going on with all the lawsuits that are happening at the moment. And regardless of how they turn out, the technology is here now. And a lot of us have been ignoring it because it doesn't seem applicable to creative writers. But there's a lot more to being a writer than just putting words on the page. So if you're interested in finding out all the ways that you could give the tasks you don't really want to do and aren't really skilled at to an artificial learning machine that will spit back useful information to you, then yeah, let me know that you'd be interested in that workshop and I'll put it together. The caveat always is that you can't trust any of these AI things for actual factual research. For actual facts, you are still going to have to go to a library and look at academic journals that have been peer reviewed and things like that. But in terms of synthesizing advice that's available on the web, that's probably pretty good. They're pretty good for that. If you can give it models to copy and ask it to create marketing materials for you and things like that, it's pretty good for that. So that's part of what I've been up to in the last couple of months. I am still downloading and processing all of the wonderful information from the Writer Unboxed Unconference. I also had a fabulous time just hanging out with other writers. If there's any way that you can get in the room with other writers in the coming year, I'm going to recommend it. Of course, I have the StoryADay Superstars. I'm going to open that up again soon for new members. I like to open it up once in a while because then we get to really help people settle in. I've experimented with letting people in dribs and drabs here and there, and I just feel like they don't get the kind of welcome that I really want them to really make them feel part of the community. So I will be opening that up again soon. So have a think about that. If you're looking for an online writing community that really is close, it is supportive, it is dedicated to ambitious writers. Now, their ambitions are all different. There are people who want to get published traditionally, people who are publishing, self-publishing. There are people who are there who just want to build a writing practice because it makes their life better. But I still see that as ambitious because we can all write when we're inspired. We can all write when we're in the mood. But to know that writing is powerfully healthy as a practice in your life, and then to pursue it even when it's hard, I see that as ambitious. I see that as an incredibly important part of being human. And that's part of what the StoryADay Superstars group is there to do. We have writing sprints, we have monthly hangouts, we have these workshops that I put on, we have a critique week. We're going to be doing a one-day retreat. It's really not one day, it's more like 4 hours in January, where we'll get together. And that's a really powerful event that happens twice a year. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you're on the StoryADay mailing list. Come over to storyaday.org and sign up there. Other things that are going on, I have a annual planning bundle, which is available to you. I think this is an excellent time of year to try that. It'll take you through exercises that help you to look back at what you've achieved. And you really have achieved some stuff in this past year. May not be what you expected, it may not be what you planned, but you'll have achieved some stuff in the past year. And it really, when you're planning ahead, it's an excellent idea to start looking at what you've done. And it will help you to set some realistic goals. I have this acronym that I talk about, PACE yourself, how to make your goals personal, achievable, challenging, because challenging is important. We're not going to do anything we're not excited about. And challenging ourselves is part of the reason that we write. And engaging, I think, is the final one. So we really have to set good goals. Make sure they're our goals, not just the goals that anyone sets. So that's part of the annual planning bundle. Takes you through the process for creating good goals, and then there's a bunch of tracking sheets and ways to break things down into manageable steps. So that's available. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. And I am toying with the idea of doing a live workshop on that in between Christmas and New Year. So again, watch your inbox for that. That may be coming. This is the 300th episode of the podcast. And 300th official episode. There's actually more than 300 episodes in there, but there are some little mini episodes and things like that. But hey, so 300 episodes of this podcast. It used to be on a very irregular schedule, and then for the most of the past couple of years, it's been on a fairly regular weekly schedule. Things stalled a little bit towards the end of the year, and I wanted to share another reason why the podcast stalled a little bit. One reason is it's quite a lot of work. It takes quite a lot of time to do it properly, to actually produce it and promote it and stuff like that. It's not the recording. I love chatting with you. I love just talking to you about what's going on in my writing life, your writing life, getting you inspired, hopefully. But yeah, all the work that comes after it is like sometimes when I'm busy, I'm like, there's that. But here's the point that I really want to make because I think it might be applicable to you in your work as well. Because this was the 300th episode, I put a ton of pressure on myself to make it awesome. I was like, I should do a clip show. I should do this. I should get guests. I should go out. All these things. It's got to be really good because it's the 300th episode. It's an opportunity to celebrate, blah, blah. No. Yeah. You know what? What happens when we put that much pressure on ourselves? We block ourselves. We get blocked, we don't write, we feel bad about ourselves. There's this little nagging open loop in the back of our mind going, you haven't done that thing yet, you haven't done that thing yet, which is no way to live. It's certainly not conducive to optimism and hope and feeling capable and confident and like you can do anything and like you can rise to your challenges. I decided just to come in here, and I've been doing some of these podcasts I've been doing with video, which of course is another little friction point because I'm not super vain, but I'm going to get dressed and do my hair if I'm going to be on video. And I candidly have not done my hair today, and I might be wearing my pajamas. Any opportunity to block yourself by raising the bar too high, by raising your expectations too high, is not great for the creative part of the process. It's great for other parts of the process. Like now that I've recorded this, once I get off, I might throw myself into all of the other stuff around it. I might edit it beautifully. I might create beautiful artwork for it. I might create some visualizations and throw it up on YouTube and promote it everywhere, but I might not. I don't have to think about that yet. In the creative part of the process, it's really useful to not think about the stuff that comes after the creative part of the process. Of course, if you're writing for an audience, I'm thinking about you, the listener, and trying to make sure that I'm not just waffling. I'm trying to think about things that I can talk about that will be of use to you. So to some extent, you have to think about your audience. But putting too much pressure on a piece to be awesome results in you just not working on it for 2 months. So apologies for the podcast being absent recently. I think some good things are going to come out of this rest, and I am committing to coming back to the regular weekly schedule. On that note, we are coming up for the 15th anniversary of StoryADay May. 2024 will be the 15th time we have run the challenge. Really interested to hear your experiences having worked through the challenge at any point. If you've ever done it, I would love to hear what effect it had on you. If you've ever completely failed it, you wrote one story, but you learned something, I would love to hear that too. I'm going to drop more links in the show notes for a place where you can leave me information about that. I'm also really interested to hear what you'd like to hear on this podcast. I've done many things over the years. There have been writing prompts. There have been things where I teach a little bit about something to do with craft. There's the inspirational type. This is more of a newsy one where I'm just telling you what I've been up to, but hopefully stimulating some ideas for tools that you can use. But there have been other ones where I just get really heartfelt and talk about what it means to be a writer and hopefully encourage you to give yourself permission. So there's the inspirational ones. There are the interviews that I do with other writers, interviews with people who are writer adjacent. I've talked with psychologists, I've talked with sex therapists, a linguist, experts in other fields that might be of use to you as a writer. So I'm curious to know, what would you like to hear more of as this podcast goes forward? So there you have it. A very non-spectacular 300th episode of the StoryADay podcast, but I am so happy to be back in front of the microphone. And I hope that you haven't unsubscribed in the time I've been missing. It's such an honour to be in your ears every week when I am doing it every week and helping you think about this writing journey that means so much to you and means so much to us as readers. I know some people who only read nonfiction, and I think they are cheating themselves. I tried to watch an episode of PBS Spacetime recently, and the guy who presents it is immersed in really advanced astrophysics, and I can't understand any of it. But sometimes he says things that spark my imagination, and I think, gosh, I wish somebody would write a science fiction story about that so that I can put that very complex scientific truth, theory, in a context where it makes sense to me as a human being. So it's really important to me that you continue to write. It's really important to us as a species that we have writers to take big complex ideas and humanize them, to put them in context, to help us think about what the emotional resonance is, what events in the world, what discoveries in the world are doing for us as humans. So thank you for writing. Please keep it up for your own sake, because I'm sure you know, as I do, that when you are writing, you are happier, you are more yourself, you are better able to cope with everything the world throws at you. And if you don't have time to actually be crafting pieces at the moment, at this very busy time of the year, with all of the stuff that's going on in your life and with all of the surprises that life continues to throw at you, if you don't have time to be crafting pieces at the moment, do not think that affects your status as a writer, because you are still walking through the world as a writer. You are breathing in all of these experiences, and at some point you will breathe them out into characters, and we will be better off for it. Being a writer is about so much more than just putting words on the page. Yes, that's part of it. Yes, we have to get to that bit eventually, and somewhat consistently and with a will. But being a writer means that you are paying attention to the world. You are processing things. You are making sense of events in your head and in your heart. And we need you. So keep it up. Don't let go of it. Don't think that you can give this up, because you can't. I've tried. You've probably tried. And you will always come back to your writing. So it's an honor to be in your podcast app. I will continue to keep showing up, and I hope that you continue to keep showing up. Check out the show notes if you are holding your phone right now or not driving. Open your podcast app, click on the little eye that says information. Look at all those links in there, and if one of them catches your eye, if there's something you'd like to give me feedback on, or if you'd like to take that holiday stories workshop that I talked about, click the link right now. Unless you're driving, click the link right now and let me know how it's going. If you want to comment on what you would like to see in this podcast, I'm going to give you a link to this episode, which is just storyaday.org/episode 300. You can go right there right now and tell me what you enjoy about the podcast, what you'd like to see more of, and what you can live without. Anywho, that's it for me for this week. I will be prepping for Christmas, which is a big deal in our house, in the next week, but I will be back in your ears in about 7 days, and then we'll be charging forward towards 2024. Thank you for listening, and keep writing. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at StoryADay.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.